Ladies and gentlemen, let's go. Travel, life, and fun.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's go.
You're listening to the Life Adventurous Podcast, presented by SayWHA Radio.
Welcome to the Life Adventurous Podcast. I'm Jenny, your host. I'm glad you're here listening. Things have been definitely pretty heavy lately, and there's been a lot of self-work and exploration and learning that's been taking place. And I really just wanted to share some of the lessons that I've had, some of the lessons I've learned about myself, people of color in that community, and the civil rights movement. And my intention is to share some of these things to inspire you to do the work yourself, share that you're not alone, and to let you know that this is really important to explore regardless of your background. Now, if you are a person of color, these are things that you already probably know, but hopefully it'll be hope that non-people of color, like I'm a white girl, people like ourselves, we care and we're doing the work to be able to learn. So I just want to share. I may not get it all right. I am not the be-all end-all for this, but I just want to share from my perspective. So the first lesson that I want to talk about is white privilege, and really just understanding that, number one, it existed, and that prior to all of this, I had never heard that term before. And if you had asked me prior to this, the events with George Floyd and the riots and all of the protests, I would have said that white privilege was, I don't know, some rich white people who were born into money and got whatever they wanted. And I think that that probably is still part of it, but I think it's deeper than that. I've been learning that white privilege is not necessarily a bad thing. It doesn't make you less than, especially if you're willing to acknowledge it and speak out against it when it's happening. But it's really about people of color, Indigenous people who are not treated equally in so many circumstances. It's about, for the color of my skin, I'm not scared to be around the cops. For the color of my skin, I'm not afraid to walk around at night. For the color of my skin, I get opportunities that others would have to work so much harder for. And there's a video that explains this really well, and it's been around for many years, but there's a coach who's got, it looks like it's high school kids. They're out on a field, and he has all of his students line up on the line, and he asks a series of questions about, did you grow up with two parents in your home? Do you have this? Do you have that? Like lots of different questions. And he says, if those things are the case, take a step forward. And after about 3 to 5 questions in, the camera zooms out and you can see how different everybody is. So there's other people. It's a race for $100 is what he's prepping it for. And you can see that a lot of the people who are still on the starting line are people of color. And the point is there's things that just as white people, we have a privilege to that makes things not equal. So learning that and realizing and recognizing, I think leads into some of my other lessons that I've had. But please continue to research it yourself and learn a little bit more if you are a non-person of color. And if you are a person of color and you feel like there's anything else that I could learn about that, I'd definitely be open. But a lot of my time, especially in the couple of weeks right after George Floyd's death and the protest, is I've watched different documentaries. I've watched a different one every night, and I've been going deep and exploring and learning. So this isn't something you just do right now. It's something that you'll continue to learn and speak up against. So the second thing goes into the white privilege, but learning that this was happening right under my nose. It's something that I really didn't pay a lot of attention to before. I didn't know. I didn't understand, which once again leads into the white privilege. But also, as I've been watching different documentaries, when I watch documentaries on the LA riots in '92 with Rodney King, and then I watch riots over the years in different cities, some that I had heard of, some that I didn't, and even watching shows talking about racism, the thing that really sticks out for me is that this has been going on for a very long time. And the same things that are said and the same frustrations that I'm hearing today are the same things that were said in '92 and '65 and all the other years. It's like the same thing. I feel like I could be watching those documentaries from years past today, and I wouldn't even question that it happened many years ago. So that has been very eye-opening, especially watching 13th on Netflix as a documentary, just really learning and digging deep into this. I'm so many emotions all in one. I'm alarmed. And as I see people of color online, they're like, okay, of course you're alarmed. White people, like you, white privilege, you weren't seeing this before. But I am genuinely alarmed because, once again, I didn't see it before. And then also, I'm angry and I'm upset because this needs to change. That's all I can say. It's just, it needs to change. The third lesson is that racism is everywhere. And unfortunately, this is true. And a couple different thoughts on this is, I think that as a white person, realizing that there's been different like racist thoughts that I've had, but I would have never called them racist. And I'm not talking the outward intentional hatred. I'm talking about just things that were built into culture, built into growing up that you never really questioned that are racist, and really being aware, because you really can't grow unless you're willing to learn, and you have to be willing to learn. Because right now there's a lot of focus and awareness on this, and you may get called out. I may get called out, and you have to be okay with that discomfort so that you can grow. So I wanted to share a few of the terms that came off of this list with Babbel.com, and some of the ones that really I didn't know. And do your own research. Look and see, look for a list of racist terms, because you want to learn, you want to grow. And so the ones that really caught my attention that I had no idea is hip hip hooray. So this is something I've heard before. I've probably said it. I don't think I say it a lot, but I've said it before. And this actually derives from the anti-Semitic chant, hip hip. And it was a rallying cry to attack Jewish people. And it was from the German Confederacy in 1819. And so this word ended up getting put together. So just the hip hip hooray and where it comes from, there's no need to use that. Just say hooray instead. Another one that really caught me completely, literally knocked me off my seat, was eeny, meeny, miny, mo. This one is a children's rhyme. You may have heard it before. You may have said it before. Maybe your kids say it right now. But the eeny, meeny, miny, mo, catch a tiger by the toe. If it hollers, let him go. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. And that, I had no idea as a kid. My parents probably did not know either. But this was used in the days of slavery. And instead of tiger, they used the N-word. And please, if your kids are using this right now, help them come up with a new rhyme or flip a coin or a new little jingle to be able to pick something. Because that one definitely has very deep roots, for sure. The other one that kind of caught me was grandfathered in. I've heard that so many times. It's like when people or companies kind of allow an existing set of rules, even after new rules are put in place, you get grandfathered in. And that actually derives from an amendment that was passed in 1870 that gave Black American men the right to vote. And a number of states had instituted poll taxes and literacy tests to make voting more difficult for Black people. And this was a way around a ban on Black voting, which had become illegal. But several states passed a law known as the Grandfather Clause, saying that if you could vote before the 15th Amendment was passed, or you were, a descendant of a voter, then you didn't have to take the test or pay the poll. If you were white, then you were grandfathered into being allowed to vote. So that term as well is deeply rooted in a time during slavery and has racist meanings around it. So once again, do some research on your own, but learning these things and continuing to become aware of the language that we're using and why we're using it and what it's for and where it comes from, it will just empower you even more to be mindful of those around you. My fourth lesson that I had is talking about stereotypes. And one of the things I think happens sometimes with us as a human race is that when we don't know someone or something, and it's very unfamiliar to us, for whatever reason, it comes across as this scary thing. And especially when you feed in some media examples of it. So one example is I've been watching on Hulu, which is about to get pulled off Hulu in a few days, is Hate Thy Neighbor. It's a program put on by Vice out of the UK. And Jamali is the comedian and the host of it. There's 2 seasons. He goes around and he interviews different people in groups they have differing views. They're kind of like on the outliers of some of the views, and they have very strong views and beliefs. So he interviewed some people who are National Socialists in the United States. He interviewed some people who were just different people. So the one I wanted to bring up was Ukraine. So I don't know much about the Ukraine. And I watched an episode about the Ukraine and about how they have an army, like they have their national army, but then they have this other group of people who've put together an army, and it's all about white power, and it's about keeping Ukraine whole and complete, and it's very anti-Russia. And I don't know the full story, but let's just say, right? So you watch this 45-minute episode that shows a lot of like unrest, a lot of angry people, a lot of like an aspect of Ukraine. It would be very easy to be like, oh my God, then people in Ukraine are crazy. Stay away from them. But how on earth do I have the authority to make that decision after a 45-minute episode showing me an extreme group in Ukraine? Like for me to write off everybody in Ukraine, that's kind of crazy. But if you think about it, you know, when we don't know about something or someone, we can just make a blanket statement out of fear. I know that I've traveled to the Dominican Republic before, and I've had people be very scared for me to be there because it's so close to Haiti, and watch out for all them crazy Haitians. Well, is that true? Like, are all the Haitians crazy? Or is that just what the news shows? Things can still have unrest in an area, but like for us to make a blanket statement, or even if you look at the UK, because this was another one of the episodes on Vice, is the UK, there's a lot of people over there who are very against Muslims coming into the country. And there's a lot of racist terms being used against the Muslims. And there's a lot of hate towards that group of people. And they really are afraid of some of the things that they're doing coming into their country. And while I don't live there, I did experience a little bit of hearing some of these terms and words when I did a study abroad, when I was in Wales and I went around the UK. If you just think about these things, it's like when you just don't understand like something or someone, it's like this scary thing. So just think about stereotypes or things that you've said that could be racist and just explore them and ask yourself. That's what I've been doing. So the fifth one is about speaking up. I have made a conscious decision that I will speak up when I see something that's not right. And there's lots of different ways that speak up could mean, because of course there's situations where safety could be a concern, you know, if things are heated. And I've read some articles, so make sure you do some research and see, because I've seen some really good articles on like how to speak up and how to stand up when there's racist things happening. But one example I wanted to give for this is recently I was around a group of people who were getting pretty heated, and one of them had yelled the N-word 2 or 3 times to this group. And I immediately started screaming, "That's racist! That's racist! You're a racist!" And after everything settled down, this person was over by me, and I was like yelling at them, like, "Are you the one who did that? That's so wrong. You need to..." My point here is that's new, because I might have just stood there and watched it and been upset. And the thing that's part of this process is realizing that if you are willing to stand up and say something, what that looks like. And for me, I know it's a growth point. I would not yell and scream at the person the next time that that happens and I'm with it. I may have a different conversation. I was just so angry. And once again, that's part of the process. But the point is I will speak up. I am not going to sit by and watch things that I know are wrong take place. I will speak up, whether it's in that moment or reporting it to the proper, say it's something at a company, reporting it to the proper people, whatever it means, I will speak up. So number 6 is my eyes have been wide open to seeing how the similarities are with media, the way that people of color have been portrayed over the years, and the way that transsexuals have been portrayed over the years in media. And I watched Disclosure on Netflix with Laverne Cox, watching them break down in Disclosure the way that transsexuals have been portrayed over the years. Usually they've been portrayed as like a serial murderer or someone who's scary. Or if you think about Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, where Jim Carrey finds out, the actor who played Ace Ventura finds out that he slept with or kissed or whatever. He kissed that, I can't remember her name. The police chief or whatever, that he slept with the detective or whatever. And he was like, "Oh my God, she's a man. And then he's like puking and inducing puking and like brushing his teeth. And then when he makes the statement and they lift up her skirt and all of that and everybody starts kind of puking, like that right there is a media portrayal against a group of people who then, if that's all you know and that's all you see, then that ends up getting ingrained in you. And so you think like, ooh, transsexuals, like they're murderers and they're gross and ooh, stay away from them. But the thing is whether it's people of color, transsexuals, or whatever group that's being portrayed in the media or that is misunderstood, all of those stereotypes end up getting ingrained in us unless we're willing to do the work and say, stop, whoa. And so just seeing how parallel those two worlds are has been huge and really eye-opening. And once again, it's another thing, like I want to help people be educated and open up their eyes and their heart and their mind to be able to see these groups of people as humans and to be able to see these people as individuals who have feelings, you know, a lot of times want the same things that we want out of life. If we're talking about the current events, I'm not discounting Black Lives Matter, and I'm not saying that humans matter instead. I still believe that that is the force that we're going with right now because an understanding behind, because that's important. But my point is watching and learning about these different sections of people, how similar, right? And it's just like, once again, it just goes down to like when you watch these people, when people protest against LGBTQ parades and they're like, you guys are abominations. There's some very hurtful words being used towards those communities. And you could, same with the words that are used against people of color, like in general, right? And like those people, they have feelings. I don't know. I could talk about that for a while because it just breaks my heart to see. And I've cried over so many of these shows because it's not okay. Number 7 lesson is I will never be the same. I will never be the same. And I'm okay with that. And I'm excited for the journey of growth. I'm excited for the next steps. I'm excited to continue to learn. I'm excited to grow. I'm excited to dig deeper and see what comes out of that. And even just when you're talking about some of these things, it's like, okay, what are we going to do to change this? It's the conversations that I'm going to be willing to have. It's this conversation. Like I'm really putting myself out there by sharing this on a podcast because it's possible that maybe I said some of these things incorrectly and I'm going to catch some heat for it. I know that I am coming from a place in my heart of care and I want to share, but putting myself out here like this and having this conversation for lots of different people to hear and stumble onto for years to come is a big deal. And while it can sometimes feel easier to stay in your shell and to stay in your home and to stay hidden, because if you stay hidden, nobody can see you, right? But this was on my heart and I really wanted to share some of the lessons and share some of the ahas as I go along this journey. And lesson number 8, which is really just like a life lesson, honestly, is just an overall like energy lesson, is Facebook definitely was hurting my mental health. And Jay, my husband, he had started this where he's like, you know what, I'm deleting Facebook off my phone. Like we're still on there and we'll get on there on the computer. But when I deleted it, I just deleted a couple of days ago. And I'm constantly going to my phone to like where that app was on my phone to go just scroll and read. And I can't. I'm going to still hear the news and see the things. But to be on Facebook as much as I was, especially with everything going on, it became a crutch. And nah, like I just can't do that. For me to be strong, I have to have all my energy. And for me to be able to stand up and continue to learn and continue to do the work, that was something that had to go. So I'm laughing to myself here because it's possible that I just sped through this episode, because a little hint here is like, if I'm speeding through something, I'm a little nervous, to be honest. I'm hoping I slow down a little bit, but it's a lot. It's a lot. And I definitely have learned even more lessons than what I shared, but those were the ones that really popped up strong in my mind. And I look forward to connecting with you. I mean, you can come over to Instagram, find me on Instagram at The Life Adventurist. Send me a message over there, connect. We're about to be on Pinterest. I think we are, but like we don't have any pins yet. So we're about to get over there on Pinterest. Still on Facebook, but just from the desktop, and just connect. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you've been doing. Let me know what lessons you've learned. Share with me your feedback. What else can I do to be better? and go deeper with this work. Of course, I'm continuing to go through the list of items to learn and grow. Love you guys. Thanks for being here on the journey, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for listening to the Life Adventurous podcast. If you love this episode, remember to subscribe on your favorite podcast app. For course information, freebies, and to stay connected, join our Ohana, that means family, at www.2jhala.com/Ohana. Remember to stay positive, enjoy the journey, and most of all, keep those eyes open for all of the adventures surrounding you.